What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Chat with Will Grant. Today's topic is all about gut health. This has been an extremely popular topic, not only in the past year, but the last few years, 5, maybe even 10 years, where there's just been coming out so many new research and science coming out with gut health, and it's really changed the whole paradigm of how we are thinking about health, happiness, and just the functions of our body. So I'm super excited to be able to talk to you guys about gut health. I'm going to be going over what is gut health, why it's important, and what are some things to do to improve our gut health, and how our gut health is impacting so many different functions inside our body, and just some few very simple tips that I actually use in my daily life to improve my gut health. One thing that I've learned is the more that I've nourished my gut, the more it feels like my brain works better. The better my body works, the better I feel mentally and physically. I'm sure many of you have heard about the gut-brain axis. There are so many communication factors between our gut and our brain. Literally, our gut is a huge part of our pharmacy that produces so much of the chemicals that really determine how our brain is going to act and how our brain's going to feel. So if you're struggling with anxiety, if you're struggling with a depression, or even just brain fog, one of the first places I'd recommend looking is your gut health, of course. So what is gut health? So when I think of gut health, I think of our microbiome. So the 100 trillion different microorganisms that make up our gut, and that really make up our whole body. We have these trillions of different microorganisms in our eyes, in our lips, on our fingernails, and our toes, literally every single area of our body, in our skin, and they are huge determining factors on how everything functions in our body as well. A huge part of our immune system is in our gut. The way we feel mentally is in our gut. So the more that we can improve and nourish our gut health, the healthier we're going to feel and the happier we're going to feel. One thing that still blows my mind to this day, every time I read about it or every time I hear it, is our human cells are actually outnumbered 10 to 1 by these microbial cells, which is insane. That literally makes me feel like we are more microbacteria than we actually are human, which is literally insane. So, what makes up these microbacteria? And they come from a few things. One, of course, the foods that we eat, the soil that we touch, the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, and even the emotions and connections we have with each other. So the more that you can literally improve those, I believe there are 5 things, the more that we can nourish our gut health. Like I said, these trillions of tiny organisms take part in almost every function in our body. They're responsible for breaking down our food, and collecting that info and deciding what to rebuild and charge up. So a lot of us think that we just eat a piece of broccoli and then our body absorbs the nutrients of the broccoli. In the same way as we think if we put some nitrogen in the soil or some phosphorus in the soil of our gardens, that the plants just absorb those nutrients, which is actually not the case. There's actually a symbiotic relationship between us and our microfungi, our microbacteria that actually break down that food for us. And those are the workers inside our body that literally help us rebuild our cells, help us recharge our mitochondria, which is like our battery cells. And food is literally just information. Food is one of the most powerful ways that our body communicates with our environment. So the foods that we're eating literally tell our microbiome to then communicate to our DNA of what genes to even express. So if you're eating sick and stressed food, we tend to be sick and stressed. And this is referring to a lot of the animal products that we're eating, today, and I'm not saying to never eat animal products, I'm saying to really be hyper aware of how that food is grown, because it's not always the what, but it's the how. So, for example, if you're eating food or meat that is coming from animals in a concentration camp style, it's probably not going to be the healthiest food for you. So, a lot of the animals that we eat, even the chickens, the cows, the beef, the pigs, they are in these extremely harsh environments that remind me of literally a concentration camp, and they're being pumped with a bunch of antibiotics and hormones and drugs, and they're not able to move around and touch soil and touch air and build their microbiome. So they're actually really sick animals. They're really stressed animals. And then when we eat that information, that is the way our microbiome then communicates to our DNA. And that's kind of why we tend to be really sick and stressed. And the foods that we're eating really determine how we act and how we rebuild ourselves and how we feel and look in every single way. So, what can you do? One, you have to if you are going to eat meat, if you are going to decide to eat meat, you have to really think about the health of the animal. You want a happier and healthier chicken, a happier and healthier cow or bird or whatever animal you decide to eat. You want it to live a good life. And when I say good life, what do I mean? I mean, it's out moving and it's touching the soil and it's building its own microbiome diversity, um, from moving under the sun, walking in dirt, eating food from the earth. And that makes a happy, healthy animal, which in turn, when we eat that food, makes us happy and healthy too. But one of the easiest ways to do is really just focus on plants. And plants are really the same way. All broccoli is not the same. So, for example, if you're getting broccoli um, grown with a lot of chemicals, a lot of pesticides, a lot of herbicides, what those chemicals do is actually kill the gut bacteria of the soil. What that stuff actually does is it actually kills the microbiome of the soil and of the plant. And it makes that soil and plant dead and sterile. So, and we're eating that food, the food tends to be dead and sterile and not nourish our microbiome in any way. So when we're eating organic food, and that's why, I get the conversation a lot, is organic really worth it? And the answer is yes. It's not only a voting process, but you're getting foods without the chemicals. And when you're getting organic, you're most likely shopping local. So that means that that food was grown from the sun in your longitude and latitude, and it was grown in the dirt and the soil that you live in. And what that does is it aligns your gut microbiome, your gut bacteria, your gut fungi. It aligns that with the environment. And what that's going to do is it's going to be really powerful. Every time the seasons change, you won't get sick. Every time the weather changes, you will not be as affected because your body is aligned with itself and its environment, as opposed to eating a bunch of food with a bunch of chemicals that literally kill our microbacteria. Um, uh, they determine the way we feel physically and mentally. Our immune system needs to be exposed to bacteria and germs for training to recognize what's a friend and what's a foe. So we want a very diverse family of ecosystem inside our gut microbiome. When I think of my gut microbiome, I also think of like a forest, or a full ecosystem or a garden. You want, if you look at a forest, that flora inside our gut to be abundant. You want it to be diverse, many different plants and bugs and animals going on in there, and that's what builds the strength. A lot of people will talk about, oh, I'm healthy, I have 4 cups of vegetables a day. Well, what are the 4 cups of vegetables? I have broccoli. I have broccoli every single day, which, broccoli is healthy, like we're saying, because it's very fibrous and it's, brings a lot of new nutrients, especially if it's organic. But you want a diverse meal plan. So you want to have as many different fruits and as many different vegetables as possible. So that's a challenge, to be constantly trying new foods and constantly eating something different. And that's going to essentially cover all the holes. It's kind of like in a garden. You plant the plants you want so you don't get the plants you don't want. The weeds will come up when there's a hole in place. So, for example, when you're eating different fruits and different vegetables, every different fruit and vegetable feeds a different gut microbacteria, and it has a different function inside your body. So the broader spectrum of diversity species you can have in your forest, in your gut flora, the more that it will be able to take care of. The more that it will be able to defend itself, the stronger they will be, and the healthier you will be. So what else can we do to improve our gut bacteria or our gut microbiome, our gut health? One, it's simple. Like we've been talking about, the foods that we eat is probably the simplest, easiest way. The stuff that your gut health tends to not like, kind of very almost a no-brainer: sugar, alcohol, processed food, meat with a bunch of antibiotics. You really want to do the best you can for your gut health to stay away from chemicals in your food. Most of the chemicals in our food are antibiotic. Anti means against, biotic means life. So when you take that in, it's literally killing your gut microbiome. So yeah, stay away from as much of the herbicides, the pesticides, the chemicals as you possibly can. And you want to eat food that has their own microbiome, and that's what feeds your microbiome. And the best thing that you could do is start growing your own food, because that's going to do a lot of things. That's going to get you outside under the sun, getting the vitamin D, touching your soil, building your soil, nourishing your soil. And when we nourish our environment soil, it coincidentally tends to nourish our own soil inside our own gut. So get outside, touch the dirt, plant some vegetables in your backyard, plant a fruit tree in your backyard, and that's going to literally build your gut microbiome, not only of the process of doing it, but when you can actually harvest that food. Eating that locally organic, homegrown food is the best way that I've found to build your gut microbiome. You can also, I highly recommend every single person going to their local farmer, just going on Google and searching what is the closest local organic farm towards you. Join their CSA or start shopping from there. Try to get some fruits and vegetables and some eggs, some mushrooms, some whatever different types of food from your local farm can also be another awesome way to build your gut microbiome. Sorry about that if you hear that noise in the background. I think the neighbor's blowing the leaves. So if you have a problem hearing me, just leave a comment below and I can go inside. But
You're doing
what's up,
great, Will.
Edwin?
We can hear you loud and clear, sir. There's not
All
a
right, my
blower
neighbor's,
that
I
can
think,
blow louder than you.
yeah, the neighbor's blowing his leaves off his yard, which the leaves is a funny way because that's a really perfect example, because that's how the forest and nature builds its gut microbiome in a really interesting way. Is every fall the sticks and the leaves fall, and that builds this layer of mulch or compost on top of the soil that protects the soil. And then that microfungi, that mycelium bacteria network tends to break down those leaves and sticks. And that microbacteria in the soil is what then feeds it to the plants. And interesting enough, the richer the soil, the richer the plants that we eat, the richer, more nourished we are. It is a chain. We literally are our environment. So that's why it's so important. If you take care of your environment, it tends to automatically take care of you. So what is another few things? So yeah, getting outside, on top of the foods that we eat, are not only our gut health, but our microbiome of our health inside our eyes, inside our fingers, inside of every organ inside of our body. You want to build it through getting outside. walking around your neighborhood, your climate, so your body can literally align itself with its environment. And this is extremely powerful, not only for your physical health, but for your mental health as well. Um, I mean, probably the healthiest thing that every single one of us can be doing is just going outside for a 30-minute walk. Getting that movement is not only good for your gut health and your gut microbiome, but just breathing in from different trees and different air, going to different lakes, touching different soil. All of that is how we build our gut microbiome. That's why you notice that the healthiest people were the ones when they were kids were tend to be in the dirt the most. And that's because as a kid, it's even super, super important. So if you have any kids, let them go outside and play in the dirt because that is literally what builds our immune system. That's what builds our gut microbiome. That goes with us pretty much for the rest of our life. So get outside, touch some soil, touch some dirt, go for a walk, go for a hike in different environments. The key to all of this is really biodiversity. You want to diversify your gut investments, so to speak. And you do this by different fruits, different vegetables. That's one thing that I've noticed that has been really awesome about connecting with my local farm and joining that CSA is I pick up a bag of the fresh vegetables that they pick that week. And a huge portion of that bag is some vegetables I've never even heard of. So I'm introducing new foods into my nutrition, which introduces and feeds different bugs that literally builds that diversity, and the diversity builds strength. You know, the more different plants a forest has, the stronger that forest is, and the more that it could fight off whatever sort of weather or disease comes its way because it has the diversity. And our immune system works the exact same way. Um, Another thing is eat fibrous plants, vegetables. I mean, I'm talking, broccoli, spinach, kale, collard greens, whatever fruits are um, local in your area, just eating a diverse set different, um, of different plants. All right, now he's just right in my front yard. So again, if it's getting too loud, just let me know and I can walk inside. Yeah, and if you guys have any questions, just let me know because I've been going off pretty fast on all this conversation. I just literally let off so much information in 20 minutes. So if you guys have any questions, you can leave those in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them in any way. Another thing that I like to do is have some fermented foods. So sauerkraut is really awesome. You're literally building that microbiome inside the food before you even intake it, which is really powerful, really awesome. It's kind of the same theory as kombucha. Not sure how well it works, but I do notice when I drink kombucha right after a meal, it does feel like it helps my body digest. It must be a huge part because that apple cider vinegar is like that mother who goes in and wakes up all the kids, like, come on, kids, it's time to wake up. It's time to start doing some work. So that's why it's good to have after a meal. And what I've also been doing that has been a really beneficial practice for me is when I wake up, the first thing I do is hydrate. I grab as much water as I can and I drink as much water as I can. And then I'll walk into the kitchen and I'll make a little gut activation concoction. And what this is just a small glass of water. And then I'll pour a splash of apple cider vinegar in there. And like, again, that's that mother that's going to go in that gut and wake up those kids and be like, hey, it's time to work. It's time to get digesting. And that's going to help clean out a lot of the toxins and a lot of the BS to help your body digest to then replace it with some good stuff. And then I'll put in some Himalayan sea salt, which is just some awesome vitamins and minerals. We use so many minerals when we're sleeping. That's when our body does a lot of its digestion, a lot of its gut work, a lot of its health. And then if I have an organic lemon, I'll pour a lemon in there as well. And that is just a perfect concoction. Apple cider vinegar, some sea salt, and some lemon to just activate your gut in the morning and get that thing going. And it's going to really help you not only clean out maybe some of the bad food that you had the day before, but it's going to activate that gut, which activates that mind, and you'll feel really good. Yeah. Whew. That is a lot of information. So, oh, I see a question here. What do we got? Where do you get fermented foods? How do you know if it's fermented? Um, I get my fermented foods from my local organic farm. And I live in like St. Pete, Clearwater area, and there's a company in St. Pete called St. Pete Ferments that you can go and get all sorts of different fermented foods. But honestly, public should have it. Like, I don't know of a lot of fermented foods other than like sauerkraut is probably the most common that you could probably find in grocery stores is sauerkraut and like apple cider vinegar. Um, but if you know how to ferment foods, I unfortunately do not yet, something I do want to learn, but I know fermenting foods is actually a pretty simple process. Something with a mason jar and some water and some vinegar and whatever kind of food that you want. I'm pretty sure you can ferment almost any sort of food and it helps you able to store it longer, super healthy. And yeah, so if you just Google like fermented foods near me, pretty sure you'll find a pretty good spot. Um, Hope that answered that question. And yeah, gut health. Oh, another awesome factor that we can do to improve our gut health is learning to relax. Um, a lot of us, when we're stressed, actually, all of us, when we're stressed, just know that our gut really isn't working because our body is either in fight or flight or rest or digest. So if you're mouth breathing, um, first of all, if you're mouth breathing, you're pretty much telling your gut that you're stressed out. So the first thing you could do is pick up a habit of always nose breathing. When you're nose breathing, you tend to calm down your system, which again activates your gut. It relaxes that gut microbiome so they can start working and doing their job to their best. Um, and another thing is just stress in general. Stress can be one of the hardest things on our gut health because when we're stressed, our gut isn't doing its job. So it can get a buildup, especially if you eat a bunch of food and then stress, your gut is not able to digest that. And then it can be stored as fat or just turns into some toxins. It's not what you want to do. So a cool little practice that I know Tony Riddle, the natural lifestylist, does with his family is before every single meal, he'll actually just set a 3 minute timer and just do like 3 to 5 seconds inhales and then 10-second exhales. And that literally just activates your rest, digest, turns on your gut, relaxes your system, which will help your body digest food. One of the first steps to digestion, and maybe the most important step, or yeah, one of the most important steps, and the first step of digestion is actually chewing your food. So the slower that you can eat, and the more that you can almost over chew whatever you are eating, is going to activate a lot of those gut enzymes to help you process that food. And then that'll give that food to the gut microbiome so they know what to do with it and they know whatever the cells to build. So, for example, every single day, our body is like a house that is being torn down and rebuilt, torn down and rebuilt, torn down and rebuilt. And it's up to us to take in those good building blocks of food with those good healthy compounds and that good microbiome bacteria. And it's up to us to take that in to feed our gut microbiome to then rebuild our joints, rebuild our ligaments, rebuild our brain cells, rebuild everything in our body. Um, so yeah, learn how to relax, get some organic food, get outside, and you'll be surprised with how much better you feel mentally, which has been um, pretty rad as well. Like I've always noticed that the more processed food that I eat, the more processed I feel. And one moment of awareness I had is I noticed the people who are tend to fight their environment the most, where they always seem like they're battling everyone and everything around them. I always notice that they tend to have the worst diets. They're eating the most flour and processed food that is sprayed with war chemicals, so to speak. And what I mean by war chemicals are those pesticides, that glyphosate, that Roundup. Those were literally war chemicals that we used in war. Then when the war was over, they were repurposed to spray it on our food to kill the plants. So when we're eating foods that are loaded with war chemicals, we always kind of feel like we're at war. We're always stressed, and we're always trying to fight the things around us instead of getting zen and learning how to relax, and connect with our environment, with the foods that we eat, the soil that we touch, and the air that we breathe. Dr. Edwin Adams is in the house. I was just going on this 30-minute rant about gut health and microbiome, man. Did you hear any of it?
My man, you were killing it. Now, I agree with everything. And we've got some great questions coming in. Braden, this one's right up my alley, but I'm going to let Will go first. Will, is taking a prebiotic or probiotic supplement as good as eating fermented foods, or are they two different things? What do you think?
That's definitely not my area of expertise as far as like probiotics or prebiotics. It's not something that I currently take, not because I think there's anything wrong with them, but just because I don't have the information on it. And I know there's a lot of BS information out on the prebiotics and the probiotics to where like, in my point of view, it's like it's so hard to tell what to trust with the supplements. So I go back to what I know, and that's bringing in like, it's hard to be eating local organic food, like it's hard to be going outside and put your hands in the dirt and walking to a lake or a park around different trees, and just building your gut bacteria the way I know how. I'm sure there are some companies who are doing like awesome research and great science that are maybe coming out with some good products, but I don't know of any. I haven't found any, and maybe when I do, if I do, I'll let you guys know. But as far as like fermented foods, I mean, I could be wrong. Edwin, you can correct me if I am, but they are different. They definitely are different in some way or another. So it's good to have fermented foods. It's good to have foods that are alive, like just a live piece of broccoli or a piece of spinach, Brussels sprouts, carrots. Diversity is the key. So don't just get stuck on fermented foods. Don't ever just rely on probiotics or prebiotics. You want to do all you can, the best you can. And first, I would always start with getting outside and diversifying the plants that you eat, and then try to add in some fermented foods. And if you feel like you need it, maybe do some research on the probiotics, or maybe Edwin can answer that one a little bit better.
Yeah, Braden, you ask a great question. And I think the probiotics that you find in the pharmacy or online are really reserved for a very small subset of the population. Those people whose gut microbiome may have been wiped out by, say, antibiotic therapy, chemotherapy, immunocompromised patients. I think for the general population, however, it is better, as Will says, to go natural. Add some fermented foods into what you eat during the day, and I think you'll be fine. But again, I wouldn't waste your money at this point. The science doesn't support the general population use of probiotics for the betterment of gut health.
Yeah. Oh, one thing that I forgot to mention earlier that I've been doing that has been really helpful and actually delicious, which is going to sound absolutely crazy, because for those of you guys who have had apple cider vinegar, you guys know it can be pretty rough, like really strong, and a lot of people really struggle to have it. But one thing that I noticed when I was looking at different dressings, like salad dressings, is all of the healthiest salad dressings had apple cider vinegar in it, and these are the ones that tasted the best. And when I read the apple cider vinegar bottle, it said to put it on your salads, and when I first read that, I'm like, no way, that's going to be way too gross. But one day I was feeling frisky and I just tried it on, what I like to do is I'll make a bowl and I'll have the bottom with all like greens and vegetables and plants. And then if I pour a little tiny bit of apple cider vinegar, I'm not saying a lot, so just experiment with a little sprinkle. It's crazy how much flavor it brings out of your food. And it just, in my mind, just like turns my food on, it just activates my food. So when I'm eating it, then it seems like the gut microbiome has a much easier job digesting that, which is really cool. Edwin, I want you to try that. Like, I'm not sure if you do it yet, but yeah, it sounds crazy. And like, honestly, like I first tried it and I was in a house with, I think, 10 other athletes. And I'm just like, yo, psh, and they all looked at me like, no, Will, you're going too far. Like, all right, you got rid of the microwave. You know, you're not wearing shoes, you know, like you're going too far putting apple cider vinegar on your food. And I was like, dude, I swear it tastes so good. And then every friend that had the nuts to try it, they did admit it does taste really good. I'm sure you can definitely go overboard. But yeah, put a little apple cider vinegar on your food, and I think you'll be surprised with how it turns that food on, as well as turns some flavor on as well.
Yeah, I think I agree. There are enough people I respect in this world who are using apple cider vinegar for a variety of health purposes, and a local chef who really focuses on the quality of food. In a lot of his recipes, he's using apple cider vinegar. So, okay, I get it. I've just got
Yeah.
to do it. We've got some questions, Will, I want you to address. Our friend David is saying, of course, fresh foods and vegetables are the best. How would you classify canned or frozen vegetables in gut health?
Not as good. Not as good, but it's better than a Twinkie.
Yeah.
You know, like the more processed it is, you know, I think the and the lack of freshness it has, I think, it kind of loses a lot of the benefits, and I don't know really the process of them canning it, or all I know is the quality of the food that's usually canned is less. Like I said, the best thing that you're going to get is from your backyard, or your front yard. The next best thing is from your neighbor or from your local organic farm. Search for organic food. You want to get the stuff without the chemicals. And what I've found is the stuff that are in the cans, it has chemicals, tends to have a little bit more. It's better than having like a complete processed lean cuisine of, flour pasta, but it's not as good as the real thing. There are levels to this stuff.
Yeah, good point. All right. Our friend Ray is saying, Will, you gave me a suggestion in the past that helped. You advised creating a list of 10 favorite healthy foods, and his list purposely contains a diverse set of fruits and vegetables. The list helps guide his shopping and decision he makes for each meal. I will review it to make sure gut healthy foods are on the list. Great practice, Ray. Well done.
Yeah, that is super awesome. And that's something that we could all do. A lot of people I run into, they have a hard time starting to eat fruits and vegetables because they're so used to eating, like fake processed food, and a vegetable almost tastes weird to them. And that's because their gut microbiome is not used to it, but then the more you eat it, the more your body gets used to it and the more you actually enjoy it. Like I've noticed that with a bunch of different plants. The first time I ate it tastes kind of funny, and it seems like the more I eat it, the more I like it. So the first thing that we could all do if you're struggling to eat healthy is focus on the foods that you already enjoy, that grow from the earth naturally. Who doesn't love pineapple? Like who doesn't love watermelon? Like, that's literally nature's dessert. Or oranges, or I feel like spinach almost has no taste, so put that stuff in there, throw some apple cider vinegar and some olive oil on it, and it tastes pretty good, I promise. Just try it. And yeah, just focus on the foods that taste good to you. And then once you have that base of 10 that work for you well, then one of the most important things that you could do is then start stretching, so then start reaching out and finding different fruits and vegetables that you maybe have never heard of.
So Laura is saying there is emerging research that links a healthy gut microbiome to resistance to COVID and virtually all disease. She's asking, what is the link between preventative diet versus the obsession with medications, especially antibiotics, that actually clear out the biome?
That's a big question,
That is a
like
huge question, Laura.
it seems like a battle, honestly. Like it really seems like there's a war going on at the farm. It seems like there's a war going on with the chemicals. Like those chemicals that are put on our farm are war chemicals. And it's wow, there's so much to that. Like we all know that now. Most of us know that antibiotics is not something you want to take every time something seems out of place with your body. In my opinion, I feel like the only time that we should be taking an antibiotic is if it's going to save our life. If we're close to death or near death, is really the only time I will ever take an antibiotic. There's new information coming out that's showing that just one dose of antibiotic is increasing your risk of depression by 20 to 40%. And that's because what these antibiotics do, even if you got an ear infection or whatever, a cold, you're taking a pack of like atomic bombs that you're putting inside your gut that just explode everything. It kills all the bad bugs, it kills all the good bugs. It's literally like putting off a bomb in a forest, and it's killing just everything. And that's our immune system. Like our immune system is mainly in our gut. Like that is all of our friends that are working for us every single day. It just takes them all out. But if you can get by whatever ear infection or stomach or cold that you have without the antibiotics, now you're training your soldiers. Now your soldiers are stronger because they've been to war. They know what to look for, and they're a little bit stronger to take care of it next time it comes.
Yeah, all great points, Will. I
Oh,
think there
oh,
is a
oh, one more
time.
point. One more point. And that's why when you're going to the foods that you're eating, or even just going outside and touching soil, you're building your army. Like you're building that flora, that diversity, that forest that is that strong forest that can take care of whatever issue that's coming in, so you don't have to be reliant on the pharmaceutical industry. You can nourish your soil, so to speak, or nourish your bugs, and then that gives you that kind of like financial freedom, but that health freedom, like that health security. And that health security is from our gut microbiome and is from our microbiome. And the more that we rely on these things that bring more sterility or sterileness, you know do you know the right word? Like,
I'm following. I'm following.
okay, that makes things more sterile. That is literally kind of breaking down our wall of defense. Like every time that you put on hand sanitizer on your hand, that's what that is. It says right on the thing, killing 99% of bacteria. But we are more bacteria. Like we have more bacteria cells than human cells. So like you're literally just killing your buddies that are working for you every day. I'm not saying like if you go into a dirty bathroom, it's probably a good idea to put some hand sanitizer on. If you're going in for a surgery, you probably want it to, you probably want the doctor to be as sterile as possible. You want all the tools, or, if you're getting something like put into your body or opened up, you want things to be sterile. But in your daily life, like it's okay if your child is outside playing in dirt. Don't drench them in sanitizer that is antibiotic, that literally kills your defense mechanism and your bugs, your warriors, so to speak.
Yeah, diversity matters in communities, and diversity matters in how your body adapts to an ever-changing environment. So
Well, our
it's
body is a
okay.
community. Our body is like one big kingdom. Like it's really awesome. Like one big kingdom, and we're the king or queens that are literally, we don't have complete control over our people, but we can nourish our people, and take care of our, tiny trillions of little microorganisms that make up this ecosystem that literally determines our happiness and our health. Remember, we are our environment. Take care of the environment in your direct environment, and that takes care of you. Take care of your environment inside your gut, inside your body, and all of a sudden you're going to feel better.
Yeah, well, I liken this to, our quest for information before the internet. If you wanted to know the answer to something, you had to go on a journey to find it. You actually had to go to a library, maybe, and you had to
Yeah.
look through a lot of books, and information was hard to come by, but you worked slowly at it and got better at finding information. Then the internet comes along, and boy, do you have a quick fix to get all the answers you need in just a few seconds. Well, I think we've done the same thing with a lot of medicines out there, that we feel bad, and instead of going through the journey of wellness to get better more naturally, we'll take the shortcut with pills and antibiotics. And you know what? Doctors are paid when they write prescriptions. And how would you feel if you went to the doctor and he just said, you know what? Go eat better food. you would feel like you have just been shorthanded because you expect to get a piece of paper with a prescription on it so you can feel better faster.
And I
So I
think
think
that's
it's
the
more
problem too,
cultural.
is like we're expecting to just go and rely on like putting the responsibility of our health on a doctor, instead of taking our own responsibility of our health by building our soil. The stronger our soil is, the healthier our plants will be. And that works the same way in our gut. And I think, and this is coming from, a pharmacist is saying that, you show up and it's so common for them to barely even hear what you're saying. They're just going to hear your symptoms and then give you a drug to take care of that symptom, which, there's symptoms come out in 100 different ways of root causes, and we have to go down to the root cause. And, the root cause usually comes down to our gut bacteria, of almost everything that you're having. Like, why is your gut activating inflammation, because that is our microbacteria who, does that. So it's like we have to figure out what's wrong. And, that story plays out in 100 different symptoms. But then when you go to the doctor, they're going to just take care of your symptoms without knowing the back end of the story of what's going on, and really trying to communicate with our gut microbiome. And, that's the intelligence that's already in us in so many ways.
Yeah, good point. Laura's saying that apple cider vinegar is also a great liquid to cook with instead of oil. Have you cooked with it in place of oil, Will?
No, no, I have not. But I mean, I'll try it. I mean, shoot,
Yeah.
I'll try it today or tomorrow. Probably next time I'll cook. I mean, I mean, I'm willing to try it, but you know, I'm pretty big on olive oil. Like I'm getting the glass bottle. I'm getting the good quality olive oil, and I really love the way it tastes. And on top of that, it's okay to cook with olive oil. You don't want to cook anything too high or too long, but that olive oil brings in, and coconut oil as well is what I cook with, either those two, or even avocado oil is pretty good. And then it's adding good fats into your body, which coincidentally your gut microbiome tend to like.
Nice. Jonathan saying, not a question, more an experience he had, but he advised a person with a 50 year history of colitis to take probiotics. And he did, and he never felt such comfort and confidence and continues to enjoy good health. Jonathan, that's another subset of the population that might benefit from something like that. And it is certainly worth a try. And you can see here what the potential benefit could be.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Another perspective that I have on the probiotics or prebiotics, it's not that they're bad. I'm sure that they are good, but from what the very little I do know about them, I know that it tends to be very certain species oriented, or maybe a few different species, when like, we have who knows how many different species of microbacteria in our body. So it's like, when I'm thinking of trying to diversify my species, you'd be surprised with how much species there are just in some nourished mulched soil, or some organic food, to where like you're getting all those different species in the perfect compounds that your body has evolved over millions of years to know how to digest and know how to deal with. Like, we've evolved with the microbiome in the soil for billions of years. Like, we've been evolving with the viruses, with the parasites, with the fungi. And I feel like the more that we can kind of reconnect back to where we came from, the more we'll understand where we're going.
Yeah, and it's always a great idea to connect with the microbiome around you. What's coming in that pill was probably produced in
Yeah.
Canada or a foreign country and might be not exactly the
Or
microbiome that you're looking for.
or in a sterile lab.
Hmm.
Like, just get outside. Get outside and plant a fruit tree. Like, if I want to leave one lesson, get outside and plant a tree. And it's even going to be better if it's a perennial plant that's going to feed you later on. Like, kill two birds with one stone, so to speak, with not having a better analogy. But go outside, plant a tree, just getting that dirt in there. That's going to build your immune system. That's going to build your gut health. And when you're outside, our bodies tend to rebalance, recenter, and relax. And then remember, when we relax is when our gut can really turn on and start doing its work.
Good point. David's saying or asking, where do some of the shots we are advised to get every year, flu shots, et cetera, fit into gut health?
Um,
I know what Will's.
I don't know, honestly, because I don't really, the only time I'm taking a shot is if like I'm dying, you know what I mean? Like, something's really off and like, yeah, I don't know, like that's more of an Edwin question.
Yeah, I'll be happy to take a stab at that. It's a great question, and understanding vaccine technology and how what it does in the body is helpful. So I would encourage you to do some homework on that. But what the vaccines are doing is preparing your immune system to fight the particular character, so to speak, the invader. So it's not really doing anything to gut health. Um, or the gut microbiome. This is usually respiratory or bloodborne pathogens that you are being vaccinated against. And it's helping the antibodies, the T cells, the B cells, all the white blood cells look for a particular invader that is not natural to your body. So we don't have a lot of good research associating vaccines with gut health, but strictly looking at mechanistically, you're defending against outside invaders, not your inside.
Yeah. Okay then,
Like
like,
COVID, for instance, COVID is not a natural component of your gut microbiome, but we now have a vaccine that can help keep the external invader out and impacting other areas of your body, like your respiratory tract, which can be decimated by COVID. So that's kind of how that works.
all right. Well,
No other
on that note,
questions,
let's
Will?
land this ship. Is there any more questions?
I don't see any, Will. Good job.
Yeah, well, one more thing that you can do if you're just not sure where to go next, is you can go over to thewillgrant.com, and we did launch that Nutrition 101 masterclass, that literally has all of these awesome recipes to help build your gut microbiome and to improve your gut health. It teaches you how to eat, where to source your food, what is the best foods that you can eat, literally all the one-stop shop information to help you gain the confidence and the knowledge to walk into a grocery store and know what's the best stuff to get to feed you and your family and to feed your gut and your family inside your body as well. And I think you're really going to like that. So go over to thewillgrant.com and check out that Nutrition 101 masterclass. And if you want to join in on these conversations that are going down pretty much every single week, go over to chatwithwillgrant.com and you can check out all of the future episodes that we're planning on doing pretty much every single Wednesday. And if you miss it, it's okay, because we're putting all these replays on YouTube on our Chat with Will Grant playlist. So you can go through and find the topics that you like the most, share it with the people who you feel like could benefit from them the most. And the more that we could spread this awareness and this knowledge, the happier and healthier, the stronger we can be as individuals, which means the happier and healthier and stronger we could be as a species, as a planet, as one whole macrobiome.